You are listening to Curious Cat, a podcast that examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. And I'm your host, Jennifer Holtz. Join me every week as I examine what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat. Hello, I hope you're well. What comes to mind when you hear the word angels? Sweet strains of harp music, white feathered wings stretching out from behind a bare-chested man with some six-pack abs. Angels predate Christianity. In fact, every ancient civilization holds a belief about angels. Most people consider angels protectors, blessings to our lives, benevolent helpers of humanity. But do they have a dark side? There's a great man I'd like you to know about, also, who's used angel magic to survive death row, where he was wrongly convicted and held for 18 years. I'll share his story with you. Finally, angels are depicted in a myriad of ways, but one of the most disturbing comes in the form of art based on accurate biblical descriptions, looking more like creatures from sci-fi movies like Alien than romance novel covers. Speaking of aliens, there's a group of scholars that are questioning whether angels are actually aliens. Let's get into it. Before we define angels, we have to back up because there's something called a celestial hierarchy. This is defined as a traditional hierarchy of angels ranked from lowest to highest into the following 9 orders: angels, archangels, principalities, powers, virtues, dominions, thrones, cherubim, and seraphim. Now, back to angels. They're defined by Merriam-Webster Dictionary as a spiritual being serving as a divine messenger, an intermediary, and often as a special protector of an individual or nation. You can also see guardian angel. From Luna's Grimoire, an article titled History of Angels, which I linked to in the show notes, you can find the concept of angels in the mythologies of nearly every known ancient culture. Some scholars say the earliest religious representation of angels dates back to the city of Ur in the Euphrates Valley, 4000 to 2500 BCE. There, they discovered a stone slab that depicts a winged figure descending from one of 7 heavens to pour the water of life from an overflowing jar into a cup held by the king. In Mesopotamia, there were giant winged creatures, part human, part animals, known as griffins with angelic properties. In Egypt, Nephthys, twin sister of the goddess Isis, is shown in paintings and reliefs tenderly folding the dead within her lush wings. Her image is carved into the tomb of Tutankhamun, dating back to the 14th century. Her angelic representation encompasses the dead pharaoh and protects him from any harm. The ancient Egyptians believed that each person had a supernatural double called her Ka, who was born alongside the person and stayed as part of her life forever. The Ka, in a sense, was what we now refer to as a guardian angel. There are angels throughout world religions. There were angels long before Christianity appeared on the religious stage. They even predate Judaism. Images of angels appear throughout Asia Minor and west into Greece and Italy. The famous Greek sculpture Winged Victory served as a model for Renaissance angels that proliferated into the Middle Ages. Angels are also found in Buddhism. Bodhisattvas, great and compassionate beings who have already become enlightened, are angelic. These remarkable beings chose to be reborn in the human realm so that they could teach others how to seek enlightenment. And they vowed to continue to be reborn until every living being has attained enlightenment. Some also say that devas are a Buddhist equivalent of angels. Devas are celestial beings, and in Tibetan Buddhism, they're considered to be emanations of Bodhisattvas or enlightened beings. The views and roles of angels in Christianity has changed dramatically from the Old Testament to the New. In fact, the only angel named in the Old Testament is the angel of death, who was an agent of destruction and vengeance, presumably acting under direct orders from God. With the introduction of the New Testament, no longer do angels bring death and destruction. They are also no longer depicted as bland creatures without personalities. Instead, the New Testament portrays angels as being friends to humans, with powers that could be called upon in times of stress or need. One of the most important visitations in the view of early Christians is the Annunciation, when an angel came to Mary to deliver the news of the baby she would carry. Joseph's husband was visited by an angel to soften the blow of the Immaculate Conception. In the Gospel of Matthew, 2 angels are mentioned. Neither had wings, but had a countenance like lightning and garments white as snow, found sitting inside the cave where Christ had been laid in burial. Constantine the Great was the emperor of Byzantium from 306 to 337. He converted to Christianity after having a powerful vision of a cross in the sky. It was profound enough to cause him to convert to Christianity, even though at the time it was still a minority religion, described in one book as a counter-cultural movement. It was Constantine that declared that angels have wings. He renewed people's interest in angels, and at that time most folks were accustomed to tales about fairies, so it was a small stretch from a winged fairy to an angel. St. Paul attacked and denied the worship of angels with his "I know what's best here" kind of attitude. Angels, in fact, were a tricky matter for the early church. There was great debate about whether they inhabited human bodies or were made of pure spirit. While Scripture states that angels appear as men, it also states that angels are spiritus, from Hebrews 1:14. Most important is that devotees were instructed by the church that angels were not to be worshipped and their importance must not supplant Jesus. In Jewish traditions, it's said that angels assist students through teachings and also help students avoid demons as they navigate their religious paths. In the Kabbalah are 10 sephirot, or angels, considered to be the fundamental channels of divine energy. Their names are foundation, splendor, eternity, beauty, power, grace, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and crown. They are arranged into the shape of a tree and called the tree of life. The top of the tree is occupied by a singular angel, Metatron. The angels act as intermediaries between us and God, heaven and earth. When the Jews were exiled from Babylon, Zoroastrianism was the primary religion, and with it came the concept of good angels on one side and bad angels or demons opposite, in a kind of an eternal tug of war. This notion of bad or fallen angels might have influenced the Jewish tradition and later worked its way into Christianity. Let's talk about the oldest religions in the world, shamanism. Yes, even shamanism, practiced by Native Americans, incorporates interaction with winged beings. Often in the form of ravens or eagles, these great birds were believed, like angels, to help humans, to bring fire, carry messages to and from God, and to heal. Friendly spirits are thought to guard people from harm and aid the tribal shaman in his work. If I asked, could you draw an angel? What would it look like? Would it be a hunky guy in a white gown sporting a golden halo? Mine would be something in a human form too, but the details of it would be blurry, blotted out by the sheer brightness of their gold-white light. Angels are more of a feeling for me than a vision. They make me feel like a shot of whiskey on an empty stomach, warm, tingling, burning on a slow simmer. From a National Geographic article, divine messengers haven't always looked like the familiar Christmas tree toppers. The first known depictions of angels in art are etched into stone seals. Sumerian society is the oldest to leave us clear evidence of the use of a winged human motif. The evidence is in the form of stone carvings. Sumerian culture flourished around 3000 BC between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in present-day Iraq. They believed that each human was born with a protective spirit, the equivalent of a guardian angel, kind of like the Ka that we talked about earlier. In fact, archaeologists found altars in their homes dedicated to these ancient guardian angels. In ancient Assyrian culture, a Lamassu was a protective deity, commonly depicted as a winged bull with a human head and large feathered wings. Its role was as a protector, and sculptures of this hybrid deity were often found outside of palace entrances, dating as far back as the 10th century BCE. The earliest artistic interpretation of an angel was found in the Catacomb of Priscilla, a quarry used for Christian burials in the 3rd century. In one of the catacombs chambers, a collection of wall paintings illustrates scenes from the Old and New Testaments. In addition to the binding of Isaac and images of the Madonna and Child, these frescoes tell the story of the Annunciation, that biblical event we talked about in which Angel Gabriel announced Mary would bear the Son of God. Though believed to be Gabriel, this figure did not have wings. In fact, all of the earliest known Christian depictions of angels portray them without wings. So where on earth did the notion of angels as having wings come from? According to tales of ForgottenTimes.com, the now widespread image of angels as having long, white, feathered wings seems to have originated from ancient Roman depictions of genii, which were spirits believed to protect particular human individuals. Genii, spelled Genii, were especially associated with the protection of specific Roman emperors and their families. During the Middle Ages, angels in art were portrayed as robed, winged figures. That was the norm. With the Renaissance, winged angels and cherubs became emblems of the ideal genderless beauties. Da Vinci painted them as mesmerizing androgynous beings. And by the 19th century, angels took on that fully modern appearance in art. There's a huge gulf between cultural depictions of angels and what is described in the Bible. Don't tell me you haven't Googled what angels actually look like yet. I've added a link to the show notes to a grunge.com article that has artist renderings of what is literally described. From interlocked wheels covered in eyes to wilder versions, here are a few called out in the article. According to Ezekiel's vision, every cherub had the face of a human being, and on the right side, each had a face of a lion, and on the left, the face of an ox. Each also had a face of an eagle. If the combined faces of 4 different species aren't frightening enough, cherubs also have 2 sets of wings, one for flight and the other to conceal their bodies. Additionally, per Medium, cherubs have straight legs and shiny bull hooves. The second type of angel described in Ezekiel 1 is even more bizarre. Meet the Ophanim. The singular is Ophan. According to Medium, Ophanim comes from the Hebrew word for wheels. It's a fitting name because Ezekiel's vision suggests that some of God's angels are actually floating, eye-covered wheels. Per Ezekiel 1, each appeared to be made like a wheel intersecting a wheel. Their rims were high and awesome, and all 4 rims were full of eyes all around. Further, the Ophanim are said to sparkle like topaz and to hover in the air as they mimic the motion of the cherubim. Per Ezekiel, both the cherubim and Ophanim help to guard the throne of God himself. Given their frightening description, they're certainly good picks for the job. A different type of angel, seraphim, is described in the book of Isaiah. Per Isaiah's vision in Isaiah 6, I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces. With 2 they covered their feet. And with 2 they were flying. If you're keeping count, that means that the seraphim have 1 more set of wings than the cherubim, but lack the extra faces. Also, the seraphim aren't guards like the cherubim and no phantom, but rather serve to sing God's praises. Per Isaiah, as they hover around God's throne, the seraphim can be heard singing, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. Another prominent class of angels are the messengers of God. Per Blue Letter Bible, the angels that God chose to deliver his messages could take a variety of human forms. Most commonly, they would appear nearly identical to the human male. This is true for the warrior Archangel Michael, who first appears in the book of Daniel. Likewise, it applies to Gabriel, which we talked about earlier, when he informed Mary that she would give birth to Jesus. In fact, most of the angels referenced in the New Testament appear to be more human-like and tame than their frightening Old Testament counterparts. For example, Luke describes the angels at Jesus' tomb as 2 men in shining garments. From the Bible descriptions and artistic impressions of many cultures, it's not that big of a stretch to comprehend why a group of scholars, part of an invisible college, are asking whether angels, saints, even Jesus himself could be aliens. Look no further than the account of Saint Teresa of Avila. Spain, 1559. Saint Teresa of Avila recounts the appearance of a flaming angel. Beside me, on the left hand, she says in her autobiography, appeared an angel in bodily form, such as I'm not in the habit of seeing except very rarely. Though I often have visions of angels, I do not see them. They come to me only after the manner of the first type of vision that I described. But it was our Lord's will that I should see this angel in the following way. He was not tall, but short and very beautiful, and his face was so aflame that he appeared to be one of the highest ranking of angels, who seemed to be all on fire. In his hands I saw a great golden spear, and at the iron tip there appeared to be a point of fire. This he plunged into my heart several times so that it penetrated to my entrails. When he pulled it out, I felt that he took them with it and left me utterly consumed by the great love of God. This is not a physical but spiritual pain, though the body has some share in it. After that encounter, she wished any doubters a similar experience, to taste that intense pain and sweetness. This experience with the angel would significantly impact her for the duration of her life. She made it a goal to serve Jesus each day. But this unusual account has left some academics wondering if it was an alien. And if so, are all angel encounters actually alien in nature? From D.W. Pasulka's book titled American Cosmic, she's struck by how St. Teresa's experience has been inaccurately depicted in art. From Bernini's famous sculpture, The Ecstasy of St. Teresa, to other works, what she detailed is quite different. They portrayed Teresa with a little angel wielding a small dart. None of the paintings or sculptures show the illuminated nature of the small being, nor do they depict her shock and confusion. She doesn't know how to interpret this being, and why is it different than angels she'd encountered in the past? Several religious groups, Pasulka goes on to explain, such as the Nation of Islam, were articulating a UFO narrative by the 1930s, and according to Elijah Muhammad, the religion's early leader, Wallace Fard Muhammad, had spoken of UFOs in the 1920s. From levitating saints to glowing, floating angel sightings, some are re-examining religious events through that alien filter. Sure is intriguing, at the very least. Setting aside little green men for now, many people have claimed to have contact with angels during traumatic events like near-death experiences, while others are making it their life's journey to teach all of us how to be in constant communication with angels, archangels, and guardian angel presences. One woman named Julie Jancis is doing just that. She's an author and has a very popular podcast called Angels and Awakenings. In her book with the same name, she shares the story of her quest to remain in oneness, perpetually connected to angel guides and God, and how we can do the same. I'm only a month into the work she lays out, and I'll dive deeper into my experience on another episode. But the journey begins with a good old-fashioned spiritual housekeeping. 5-minute meditations in the morning, at noon, and before bed condition us both mentally and physically to tune into our guides. I've enjoyed starting my day with the meditation. Often I do so before I've even set a toe out of bed. I give thanks for the day, thanks for my health, and ask what my angel guides want me to know or do. I haven't received an overt answer yet, but the last week I have seen synchronicities, whether it's a simple recurrence of a strange, unusual word to a remarkable journey I was lucky enough to bear witness to last Tuesday. Jancis is open about her journey towards oneness. What she felt most clearly those first 4 weeks was that her work and her marriage were suffering because of imbalances. Dealing with those head on helped clear the path to guide her to where she is now. In my first 4 weeks, I've also exposed imbalances, or maybe I should call them distractions, things that keep me from giving consistent care and attention to my life's work, which has become this Curious Cat podcast. As I record this, I'm getting ready to leave on vacation. The pets are safe at their away home. It's only now that I'm conscious of the knots in my neck and shoulders from being in a ready to be attacked mode for so long. It's a state of being that is toxic to my body, to my relationships, and when I do finally have a few minutes free here and there to devote to work, I find I'm exhausted. I curl into a ball on the couch and nap. I need to restore balance. The next part of the journey Jancis lays out is to introduce us to the angels and archangels, then find ways to become familiar with our personal guardian angels and guides. I'll let you know how that unfolds in the weeks to come, I promise. There's someone else who's made it his life's work to teach others how to contact their angels and archangels. He's a remarkable man, a survivor named Damien Eccles. Angel Magick saved his life when he was wrongly convicted of multiple murders as a young man of 18. Wrongly convicted, he served 18 years, the last 8 in solitary confinement on death row, before he was released. Angel Magick is how he manifested his freedom. If you're interested to learn more about his story, there's an excellent series of documentaries on it called Paradise Lost in 3 parts. I believe it's still on HBO. The filmmakers were a big part of the reason the case against them was tossed because they dogged down the truth for 2 decades. But with prison guards trying to kill him, worsening health, Eccles says what saved him was making his prison cell into his personal monastery. Angel Magick is what gave Eccles the clarity, strength, and ultimately the words to write his first book, High Magic. Angel Magick is what helped heal his lingering PTSD. Pearl Jam's frontman, Eddie Vedder, wrote the foreword for that book. He, like many others, has become a huge admirer of Eccles. I'll read it for you. Vedder wrote, "We connected by books. Beyond the case of the West Memphis 3, beyond the predicament, Damien would give his wife Lori a selection of books he had read and pass them on to me. I have many a volume with the name Damien Eccles written on the inside of the spine. I always marveled at the wide range of subject matter and how a person on death row was able to provide me with so many novels I'd never even heard of before. Not only did I know Damien as an innocent man, but as an educated one. On a rare occasion, we would set up a phone call. It would start with how he was doing. We would discuss the case a bit, hopefully with some progress to report. Talk music maybe, but then back to books, always books. It was always infinitely frustrating when a robotic programmed voice would uncaringly interrupt our call to say, "You have 30 seconds. It is virtually impossible to wrap up a deep conversation or thought in that limited amount of time. Yet another forced inconvenience that felt like torture. When Damien was finally released in the summer of 2011, he bestowed upon me his well-worn prison ID badge. It had a Riley Place sticker of Jack Skellington's head positioned on top of Damien's face. He also presented me with a small paperback book, Llewellyn's Astrological Pocket Planner, a moon phase journal of sorts. The once empty boxes of dates and days were now filled to the borders with handwritten hieroglyphics, a record of his daily prison life in the form of complex symbols and notes. Damien explained his system to me. The markings were there to document the number of times he had completed his self-prescribed rituals, meditations, and energy work he used to protect himself against the negative energy of the people and place he was in. He was relentless. Knowing what a fragile state he was in the majority of the time, it is clear that these disciplines and practices played a key role in Damien being able to save his own life. It was survival, and the way this man took on that task required a mental toughness beyond what most of us can fathom. He read, he studied, he ran in place for miles until his feet bled through his socks. Then he meditated and read some more, all the while documenting. The book you are now holding, I'm holding, is a product of his journey and the rituals he used to persevere. Channeling pain, injustice, and incomprehensible brutality into a work filled with power and positivity is a gift he has made for us all. So Damien Eckel has written a book titled Angels and Archangels, A Magician's Guide. In it, he shares all the details of how angel magic saved him. In down-to-earth terms, he teaches the reader to do the same. Like Jancis that I mentioned earlier, he gives a detailed overview of every angel and what they are best at helping humankind with. Some specialize in relationships while others are better at unlocking abundance. All the while, Eccles gives history lessons going back to ancient traditions. Eccles dives deep into the Abrahamic religions. He even acknowledges that some of the scripture that he refers to might be triggering, but that the Bible is in fact the most supernatural book ever written. This is probably my favorite aspect of his writings. He is teaching while at the same time giving us permission to take back our power. I could read the entire book for you here, but take the time to order it and pore over every paragraph. Write notes in the margins. But for today's conversation, nothing illustrates the power of working with angels better than Eccles' own words about how he was able to write his first book. Every morning before I went into the studio, I prayed with my entire being, something like the magical equivalent of a prayer of desperation. I began invoking angels one after the other and put particular attention toward Archangel Raphael, as well as the angels of Mercury, the planetary energy associated with eloquence and successfully conveying ideas to others. It felt like the best choice. Magic traditionally falls under Mercury's domain. So, after invoking these intelligences, I walked into the studio with no plans and just opened my mouth and watched it all come out of me. Like a dam breaking wide open, nearly 20 years of study and practice burst forth. Before I knew it, the week had passed, and we had recorded pretty much all of the material you'll find in my book, High Magic. It's just one of the many miracles that magic has brought about in my life. The book being spoken into being was a miracle, but so was the process, which was restorative and healing. When I returned home, I could do magic again with the same enthusiasm and focus I'd had on death row. I started with a half hour a day and worked my way up to an hour, then 2, then 3, however long I wanted. And I could write again. Working with angelic energies in my time of need had returned my passions to me and repaired something fundamental in me that made it feel as if I were reborn at long last into the world. And I think that passage says it all, doesn't it? Pick up the book if you are curious to learn more about his journey and how to use the angel magic to better your life. One final note before we close. There's my favorite meditations. There's a series of them on YouTube. They're by Steve Noble, and they're a little bit super duper ultra woo, to be honest. But they always start out with inviting in your angels in the horizontal plane and in the vertical plane. So in the horizontal plane, it's Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, and Uriel. And in the vertical plane, it's Metatron and Sandalphon. And I just love that start to the meditation. It makes me feel protected if I go into a trance-like state or just relaxing and letting my guard come down. And it invites in this golden white light I was describing earlier. That's the only way I've ever kind of felt an angel-type presence. But I encourage you, there's a lot of angel meditations. You can find them on your favorite listening areas, from Apple Music to, if you prefer, YouTube or Spotify, that kind of thing. So anyway, maybe get out of your comfort zone and give an angel meditation a try this week. Thank you for listening to Curious Cat. If you like the content, stories, and information, I'd be grateful if you could like and review us on your favorite streaming service. It'll help others find us as well. Huge gratitude for my art director and audio engineer. If you're in need of either of those services, please find their links in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay curious. I love you.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you looking for a new podcast that appeals to your scientific curiosity, but is also a little bit spooky?
Show me how I died in a past life.
Well, look no further, because this cat is where it's at.
He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness.
Curious Cat Podcast examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. Listen every week with your host, Jennifer Holtz, as she and her guests explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit.
We were healing karma together. They were all kind of predestined to resolve something.
Listen on all your favorite streaming apps and continue the conversation on Twitter at CuriousCatPodCA, or find Jennifer and all her links at Jennifer L. Holtz, spelled HOTES.com.